So just over a year ago, we did a super popular video documenting my first shot at a rolling burnout on a motorcycle, on this motorcycle in fact. So we're just over a year since then. I've done a bit of practice, so just wanted to do a bit of an update on that and give you guys some tips, what I've learned along the way. So a couple of things to get out the way before we get into it. Firstly, before the anti-fun police get too excited, I'm changing my tyres next week. So this is an opportune time to do any sort of burnout trick. And even, well, actually this trick does involve a little bit of practice because it's quite hard to get it dead straight. So even if you want to do it on a good set of tyres, you can you're not going to knacker your tyres basically, is what I'm saying. You can do and practice rolling burnouts, but then about another sort of 5-10 minute ride, you'll have gotten rid of all of the evidence that you ever did one, because this particular trick is not too hard on your tyres. So that's the first thing. Second thing, just a bit of a safety briefing thing. Obviously wear the right equipment. Obviously this is Knox armour, so we're wearing Knox products. This is AA rated safety clothing that I'm using at the moment, and you can find all of the links in the description for the stuff that I'm wearing. The other thing, you want to be in find a like private car park where people don't mind you doing this sort of stuff. Definitely don't be trying it on a public highway. I'm sure a police officer won't take kindly to you doing a rolling burnout down a public highway basically, so don't try it. We're in our office car park right now, which obviously we rent, and there's no issues doing that. And finally, if you're going to try this, we can't take any responsibility for what happens as a result of this as well. So that's sort of disclaimer out the way, I suppose. Now let's get on into it. So just a couple of points before we get into the actual act of doing it. I'm not a pro stunt rider, nor do I claim to be, but I have done this a little bit, and I've probably got some tips to share that'll help you get to sort of similar level to what I am really, which is sort of just above beginner going into intermediate probably. But the important things to know what's physically happening with any burnout trick, whether that's a stationary burnout or a rolling burnout like this. There's a few physical things that are going on. Firstly, the act involves spinning up this tyre, or putting power into this rear tyre, which means the motorcycle wants to go that way. And what we're doing in order to make a burnout is stopping it going forward by applying the brakes. So your motorbike is wanting to go that way, and your brake is wanting to stop it going that way. And that means there's sort of forces going against each other really, and we just need to be aware of that. Last thing we want to happen, and the cog should be starting to turn right now, is that we don't want this to get any traction basically, because if the rear wheel gets traction at any point during our burnout, what's going to happen? We're going to go that way, or we're going to go upwards, which is obviously not very good. The other thing that can happen as well is that the front wheel can or could break traction with the tarmac, and we don't want that to happen either, either slipping out sideways or whichever way basically. What that means with this trick is that we want to apply as much weight as we can get over the front wheel to stop it slipping, and we want to de-weight the rear as much as we can to get this spinning. So that's going to mean a stance that looks sort of like you're like that, and it might look quite extreme, and it doesn't always look like the cleanest on pictures when you're super far over the handlebar, but it's probably the safest way to start. And then when you get more advanced and you can get a bit more stood up, and obviously I've also seen people sat down doing rolling burnouts as well, but it's definitely safer for you guys to start and be quite weighted over the front wheel basically. And obviously as well, if it does start to go wrong or it starts to slide out, just pull the clutch in, and and take your hand off the throttle, not hand off the throttle, but take release the throttle. Thank you very much. Release the throttle and it'll all right itself as well. So let's get into it. So ideally I'd be on a paddock stand to show you this bit, but I just wanted to quickly explain the stance before we get on into it. So you want to be stood up, so obviously make sure that you get the weight over the front. I want to be about there, I think, leaning right over the front. We want our clutch in, we want our throttle on, we want our brake on, and then what we want to do is apply the throttle and sort of dump the clutch a bit, but obviously keep that feeling going on. And then we can quickly, if it all starts going a bit wrong, what do we say? Thank you. Release the throttle, pull the clutch in, just like that. So you're going like that, spinning away, and then all of a sudden it goes wrong. Pull the clutch in, release the throttle, and probably release the front brake as well, and it'll all be tickety-boo. So the other thing about rolling burnout as well is surprising, and you're gonna have to feel this as you do it, but you're quite in control of your direction with your feet, because actually the rear wheel is sliding, but you're gonna have to feel that and sort of get used to it. Let's get on into it. So the other thing is you want to just, you know, put a little bit of heat into your front tyre if you can. If you've got the opportunity to do that. In an ideal world, I'd have done a bit of a ride out, and I'd have a sort of semi-warm front tyre, but I haven't got the opportunity for that today, unfortunately. But you know, you could do a few things. You could do a few stoppies if you wanted to. This is not something I'm doing all of the time, but let's see where we get to. Oh. So I'll try that again. Baby, I think that one was all right. It's pretty straight, that. So you are using your feet, and you're using the handlebar just to sort of keep it in line. That was quite a good one. Again. Pretty good. They're quite straight. Now what you'll see on the ground is it's slightly off camber. You'll see the ground, you probably can't see it in the video, but it is sort of slightly off camber, and that's sort of meaning that I'm drifting a bit as I'm doing it. And what you'll see is that I'm having to turn the steering the handlebars quite that way and push with my opposite foot in order to get it straight. And it's not the cleanest of burnouts, but that's sort of what I'm doing. Hopefully by me repeating this, you can kind of see what's going on. So it works better when I'm dumping the clutch, and that really plays into the physical element of it as well, because obviously if I keep you know, just sort of feathering the clutch, is getting that, letting that front wheel have a bit more time to either slip either way. What I really want to do, de-weight the rear, dump the clutch, get the thing sliding, and then I'm pretty safe, and then just pull it back in when it, you know, as it sort of gets out of shape a bit. So let's do another one. Looking good. That is the first time I've ever done a sat down one. Actually, do you know what? And I've just worked this out, that a sit down one is quite a bit easier to do for some reason. And I even took my hand off the handlebar then. Looking good. I'll try one more stood up one just to finish off, and then I'll give you some final thoughts. Awesome. Pretty good. So that's one GSXR 750 for sale. Never been used, never been abused, never been thrashed on eBay. So hopefully that was helpful, and that we captured enough of the burnout action, and for you guys to sort of see what was going on, reference the controls and reference body positioning and all that kind of stuff to help you get to the next level from just watching a guy doing it into, do you know what, I'm going to have a go at that, and here's a couple of tips that are going to help you. Probably the surprise of the day for me was the fact that I found sat down rolling burnouts to be easier. Now that was the first time I've ever tried one, so and that's genuinely the case. I've never tried one of them before. Of course, from a physics point of view, it's going to be safer being over the front wheel and stood up, because you're de-weighting the rear a lot more, and therefore the rear is more likely to spin and the front wheel is likely to have more traction. But what you notice with a stand-up burnout is that it really gets a snake on quite easily, and because the ground isn't perfectly still, it's a little bit off camber. The bike did just want to sort of go to the left, and there was to the right, and there didn't feel like there was endless amounts of stuff that I could do to keep it going perfectly straight. Being sat down is so much more easy for some reason, and you'll probably see that I took my hand off the handlebars as well, which was a bit impromptu, but I did do it. This is a trick that takes a little bit of practice, but it's definitely doable. I mean, I just learned, and it was definitely doable. So the next time you're due to replace your tyres, why don't you find a spot like this and give it a shot? So look, really hope you enjoyed this video. Hope that was helpful. Please like, please comment, please check out the Knox range, and we'll see you next time.